Okay, so then our today's lecture is the information systems and software development life cycle. So first of all, we should understand what is difference between data and information. So in computers, we know that computers, they are designed to handle data and create information. So what is data? Data is the raw unorganized facts that need to be processed. Data, it can be something simple and seemingly random and useless until it is organized. And whereas information is when data is processed, organized, structured and presented in a given context so as to make it useful, it is called as information. So whenever you collect certain facts or measurements, it is in basically data. And when you organize these facts and measurements and you present it in a structured manner, it is called as information. So you need to make information from data. Data itself cannot become information, but information uses data to create info. So as we can represent in the process flow diagram, data is processed to get information, and information then leads to knowledge. So you can say that data is raw information which is gathered and stored. तुम्ही समजा raw information gather केली आणि store केली, so it is data. So when the raw data is processed, it is analyzed and presented in a usable form, it becomes information. So when patterns are recognized, generalizations are drawn and used to solve problems, it is called knowledge. Now for example, if we want to understand the difference between data, information and knowledge, let us see an example. The example here given is the addition of the odd numbers in the number series. So what are the first two odd numbers in the number series? They are 1 and 3. So what is the sum of 1 and 3? Who can tell me? What is the sum of 1 and 3?
4.
4. Yes.
4.
Right. So 1 plus 3 plus 5, it becomes?
9.
Very good. 1 plus 3 plus 5 plus 7, it becomes 16.
16.
Now see, this example shows sums of sequential odd numbers from the beginning. So these sums 4, 9 and 16, they are sums of the sequential odd numbers from the beginning. This is called as data. The sums and the numbers that we added, they form part of data. याला काय म्हणायचं? Data. इथं example, या example मध्ये काय झालं? It is data. So now if we observe this data correctly and we try to find out the generalizations in this data, we find that the sum of odd numbers in the sequence is actually the square of the nth position of that odd number. For example, 1 plus 3. How many numbers we added here? N is equal to 2. So, and the sum is 4. So basically it is square of 2. So what is the square of 2? It is 4. Now if we add 1 plus 3 plus 5, we are adding how many numbers?
3.
3. And what is the square of 3? 3 3s are 9. So the sum of these three odd numbers, it follows the rule n square is equal to 9. So what we have done is, whatever data was there in the beginning with us, we tried to patternize it, we tried to organize it in a rule, in a generalized rule. So when we process this data and we get a generalized rule, it is called as information. So now did you understand the difference between data and information? I think everybody is understanding now the difference between data and information. Now if I ask you what is the sum of 1 plus 3 plus 7 plus 9, do you have to add all these numbers together? No, you just count how many numbers are there. Until and unless they are sequential odd numbers, the rule of n square will follow. So how many numbers we are adding here? 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5. So what is the square of 5? 25. What is the sum of these numbers? So what you did is, you had data, you generalize it, you organize it in information, and you use that information to solve a unknown problem, related but unknown problem. So here what you did was you use the knowledge. So this is called as knowledge. So now I hope the difference between data, information and knowledge is clear to all of you. कळलं का डेटा, इन्फॉर्मेशन आणि नॉलेज काय काय असतं ते? थकले का रे, आवाज येत नाहीये. Now coming to information systems. Now remember that our world is full of lots of information. From your music playlist, YouTube playlist, to your mobile phone contents, from your safe games to Facebook pages, from information stored by the college to data stored by your doctor. There is lot of information about you. And this all information, all this data has to be stored, categorized, searched and sorted to get any information. So every step is generating data. Whatever you are interacting on Facebook or social media, this is all generating data. And this data needs to be stored, categorized, searched and sorted. So remember that our data storage is growing at a tremendous rate. It is so much increasing that if you see today's data and if you go for 2025's data, so we are expected to have 175 zillion bytes of data in the world. So every day we create 2.5 quintillion bytes of data. So that is 2.5 billion bytes of data per day. And remember that we created 90% of today's total data in last 2 years only. So only 10% of data was existing before last 2 years. But in the last 2 years, we have created in the world about 90% of the data storage that we are having today. So how do we manage this massive amount of data that we have stored? So we depend on something called as information system, which helps us to create, control, find, access and store the data. So let us try to define this information system. So if I go for a simpler definition, that information system is a set of computer-based tools which are used for collecting, storing and processing data in our world. So these are basically the combinations of hardware, software and telecommunication networks that people build and use to collect, create and distribute useful data, typically in organizational settings. So a computer-based system that will collect, sort, store and process the data for us, they are called as information systems. Did you understand the concept of information system? So these are computer-based tools which collect, store and process all the data. Did you understand this?
Yes, sir.
So businesses and other organizations, they rely on the information systems to carry out their day-to-day operations. They rely on the information systems to interact with their customers and suppliers, and they use the data to compete in the market. So for examples, different corporations, they reach their customers through targeted social media marketing. You must have observed that if you search something on Amazon and don't purchase it, then what happens is whenever you are seeing your Facebook, the advertisements of the same products, they start showing up. Have you observed this? Amazon वर एखादा प्रॉडक्ट आपण सर्च करून सोडून दिला आणि नंतर फेसबुक बघितलं तर तिथेही तेच प्रॉडक्टची ऍड दिसायला लागते, आहे की नाही? So these all corporations and companies, they are reaching their potential customer by something called as targeted social media marketing. So what advertisements you are seeing on your Facebook, they may not be visible to me because now you are targeted for the social media marketing. So they use this information system to process their financial accounts and manage their employees. So what are the characteristics of these information system? So there are 4 major categories of characteristics of an information system. It is intrinsic, contextual, accessibility and representation. Intrinsic means our information system, whenever you are going to develop an information system, it must be error free. It should always give out accurate information. Secondly, it should fulfill your system goals and objectives. And the information that the system is presenting, it should be authentic and it should be a reliable information. There should not be any hanky-panky in the different information that is supplied to you by the system. Now, contextual. All the information must be relevant to context. Whatever has been asked, the same information must be seen and not anything else. The output value should be auto-incremented. Then timeliness of the information is very important. Whenever you are asking for an information, within a fraction of a second, the correct information should be displayed to you. Then the completeness of the reports means the reports that your system is providing, they should be complete in all the respects. And info should be provided at predefined frequency. Now coming to the accessibility option. So your information system must be easy to access. There should be security of access in the information system. Whoever is authorized to access, they should be able to access, and that access should be easy. Now coming to the representation of the information system. So the interpretation of the information system must be simple. Then it should be easy to understand and use. The representation that we are showing in the information system should be summarized, and there should be consistency in the information system. So what are the components of the information system? There are 5 components of information system, and they are hardware, software, database, network, and people. So hardware is something that we use in the physical networking, whatever drives we are using, whatever processors we are using, what motherboards we are using, these all things are hardware. Then different softwares that we use, just like system software, application software, they are also part of the information system. The next is database. Information systems cannot work with a proper database in place. So different database technologies such as SQL, Microsoft servers, then you can have MS Access. So all these databases can be part of the information system. And this information has to be accessed over network. And that's why network is also part of the information system. And finally, who is going to use all these systems? The people. So the people are the most integral part of the information system. Now let us see these things one by one. First of all, software. What is software? We always use this word without understanding the meaning of this software. So remember that by definition, software is set of instructions and data that tell your computer how to do a work. कम्प्युटरला एखादं काम कसं करायचं हे सांगण्याच्या इन्स्ट्रक्शन जे आहेत किंवा डेटा जो आहे त्याला आपण काय म्हणतो? सॉफ्टवेअर. So there is a difference between hardware and software. So left hand side you can see a figure of hardware. So all the hardware components are there. It contains motherboard, monitor, keyboard, drives, etc. And on the right hand side you can see the software. So different applications that you are using and the operating system you are using on the laptop. These are all examples of the software. So hardware are physical components and software are the logic which works behind the working of the hardware. So there are 2 types of software, system software and application software. Now we need to understand difference between the two. Now what is system software? System software is something that makes the hardware work. So it works in the background and it gives instruction to the hardware to work in a particular way. And the application software, they run on the system software. So they convey their requirement to system software, and the system software actually optimizes the use of hardware components to satisfy the needs of the application software. So it is system software is designed to operate and control your hardware. So it includes your operating systems. Now what are the operating systems, do you know? Windows, I think everybody knows. Android, I think everybody knows. Have you heard about Linux? Linux विषय ऐकलंय का? And what is the alternative operating system for Windows? Have you heard about Ubuntu? It is an open source operating system. If you want to install Windows, you have to install a pirated version, which is illegal work. And if you want to go for a legal version, you need to spend something like 5 to 6,000 rupees. But Ubuntu is free of cost. It is also operating system which you can freely install on your computer. Then basic programming languages such as C, C++, Visual Basic, Java, etc. So these are all parts of the system software. And the communication software, how you are going to connect to other computers or the internet. So different system softwares like HTTP or File Transfer Protocol, FTP, these are all parts of the system software. So there are three things: operating system, programming languages, and communication software. Now coming to the application software, and in short nowadays we call them apps. So what are the apps or application software? These are a group of programs which are designed to complete a type of task. For example, MS Office, Sony Audio Master Suite. So all these are examples of application software. Can you name some application softwares apart from these? हे सोडून कुठल्या ऍप्लिकेशन सॉफ्टवेअरची नावं सांगू शकता तुम्ही? कोण सांगू शकेल ऍप्लिकेशन सॉफ्टवेअरचे एक्झाम्पल्स? आहेत का झोपले रे?
Sir, all apps we are using in our phone.
हाँ, these all are apps are system software or application software? They are application software. And your Android, what is it?
System software.
हाँ. Then for example, Facebook app, what it is? System software or application? It is application software. WhatsApp काय है?
Application software.
Now you understood the concept of system software and application software. Very good. So this is a common question that is asked. Compare system software and application software. So remember that system software, it is designed to provide a platform to other software like application software. And whereas application software is designed to perform a group of coordinated functions, tasks or activities for the benefit of the user. For example, if you are using WhatsApp, then all your messages should be sent to the groups, or the group's messages should be displayed to you. So, or the photographs and everything should be displayed to you. So these are the tasks which are performed by the application software called as WhatsApp, and it runs on the system software that is Android. So it is computer software which is designed to provide a platform. Unless Android is there, can you install WhatsApp in your in your mobile phone? No, because WhatsApp will not work if Android is not installed on your phone. Right? At least Windows or Android something should be there on your phone, then only the application software will work. What is the function of this system software? It manages the resources and it helps you to run the hardware and application softwares. Then the system software runs when the system starts and runs till the end. So the moment you switch on your phone from off position, the first thing that installs on your computer or mobile phone is the system software. And when all the system software is run, then only the applications can be run whenever the user wants them to run. तुम्ही क्लिक केल्याशिवाय तुम्ही त्याला टॅप केल्याशिवाय तुमचं व्हॉट्सअप ओपन होत नाही, आहे की नाही? So it opens only when you want it to open. Whereas the moment you switch on your phone, the Android will actually run without asking you anything. So when you are developing system software, it is developed using languages like C++ and assembly, whereas application software is developed with Java, C, C++ and Visual Basic. It is essential, the system software is essential for proper functioning of the system, and applications are not extremely important for the functioning of the system. You can run your mobile phone very properly without any app in it. So for example, operating system, language processors and device drivers are examples of system software, and word processors, spreadsheet, presentation, web browsers, graphic software, all these examples of application software. So if I want to develop an information system, what are the steps which I need to follow? The first step is information gathering. Second step is requirement analysis. Third step is feasibility analysis. Fourth is data flow diagrams. Fifth is process specification, and sixth is input output design. The information gathering means you need to gather the information regarding the information system that you are going to develop. So what exactly the system is in place and how you are going to develop and what are the different procedures, forms, etc. Then requirement analysis, what the end user exactly wants and what is expected out of your system is called as requirement analysis. Then is feasibility analysis, means can we develop the system in given resources, and apart from that, the question whether it is worth to develop a system for something or not, it is called as feasibility analysis. Then data flow diagrams, here we actually map the system on paper and we develop different protocols so that we can bring all the modules together. Then process specification, so we exactly define what a process should work out and what should be the inputs and outputs of the process. And finally, we need to design the inputs and output in the process. So let us see these steps one by one. The first step is information gathering. So here, how do we gather the information regarding a system that we want to develop? So review of literature, on-site observation, interviews, questionnaires, these are all methods of gathering the information regarding the system that we want to develop. And after we complete this information gathering, we go for data organization. So information gathering, it is required to understand how a process works. See, when we are developing an information system, there has to be something already available in place. There can be a paper-based system or there can be an informal type of system. For example, tomorrow, pharmacist from the nearby shop, he wants you to develop a software for his shop. Now, how do you start for it? So, basically what you have to do is you have to go there and you need to collect all the information possible about the different operations that are being done in a nearby pharmacy. So, how they receive the goods, how they process it, how they handle the prescriptions, how they record the sales. So all things you should understand first. And for that, what you have to do is you have to go for information gathering. So you need to read the procedures, forms and workflows. So if it is a company, usually all the procedures are documented, the forms are made. So whenever a procedure is run, the forms are filled up, right? And the workflows are followed. So you need to gather and understand the procedures, forms and the workflows. It can also give you a good idea of how the final system should perform. So in the information gathering, you have to the first way of information gathering is review of literature, procedures and forms. So here we review the procedure manuals if they are available. Then usually a documented procedure will have well-defined forms. And these forms are filled up whenever each step of the process is handled. For example, in the pharma industry, whenever you do granulation or tablet compression, you usually follow a well-defined procedure from a procedure manual. And when this procedure is followed, we need to generate a documented evidence that the procedure was followed. And for the documented evidence, we have different forms in which we fill up the data. There can be a BMR or there can be some forms which we use to record the temperature, humidity, etc. So all these forms and how they are filled. Then you have to understand other documents such as consultant reports. The company might have hired some consultants to understand and improve on the system. So these consultant reports can be very important for you to understand the different aspects of the process as well as what improvements are suggested in the process. Then you can go for government regulations. So if you want to develop a software, it needs to be compliant with the government regulations. For example, if you are developing a software for a pharmacy shop, then the government regulations say that you need to follow certain aspects. For example, there is price control order or there can be GST. So all these rules should be followed by your software. It should not happen that your software is showing a one price and the GST regime will dictate another price. So all these things, if you want to avoid, you need to study your government regulations also. Then process failure documentation. In the industry, whenever a process is failed, then there is a documentation done and investigations done. So whenever the process fails, a very important documentation is generated, and that documentation helps a system analyst to understand the process very well and to avoid any pitfalls while developing the system. The second way of information gathering is on-site observation. So here your system analyst actually goes to the shop floor and observes the process as it is worked out. So here he tries to observe the behavior of the people, he tries to understand the physical layout of the people, right? And he tries to understand how the people respond to different situations. Now it is important that as an observer he must be neutral and he should observe the system as it is. He should not try to advise anybody, or he should not try to have too much communication with anybody or distract anybody, so that he can observe the system very objectively. The observer should listen more and talk less. The next method is interviews. So here the observer interacts with interviewees. Now these interviewees are taken from diverse set of people in the system. For example, he can talk with operators, managers, supervisors, suppliers and customers. So he asks questions and obtains direct answers. When you follow this interview system of information gathering, you get very authentic information and correct information is obtained. And if there are any problems, you can observe them or understand them at the first hand. The next method is questionnaire. In the first practical, we have already developed a questionnaire. So here, the observer or the system analyst, he gives out questionnaires to different people in the system. So these are set of questions which the respondents will answer. Now, as we know, the questions in a questionnaire, they can be open-ended or closed-ended. So who can tell me what are open-ended questions? What is difference between open-ended questions and closed-ended questions? काय फरक असतो रे?
Close-ended yes and no.
Close-ended are usually yes or no answers, or they are one of the options. For example, you nowadays your exams are being done on the online mode. So usually the answer has to be among A, B, C or D, right? So you don't have freedom to select any other answer or describe any other answer, है की नाही? तुम्हाला जे क्वेश्चन विचारले जातात क्विज मध्ये किंवा तुमच्या युनिव्हर्सिटी एक्झाम मध्ये, तर चारपैकी एकच आन्सर असावं लागतं ना त्याचं. तर मग when your answers are restricted, it is called as a close-ended question. So it can be a yes/no question, or it can be one of the four options, or they can be open-ended question. So here you just put up a question and ask the respondent to give more information about the situation or the problem. So which should be more preferred questioning method in the questionnaire? If you want to really collect some information, important information, should you use close-ended questions or open-ended questions?
Open-ended.
We should ask more open-ended questions. Now, as we know the parts of the questionnaire, so you need to describe these parts. Whenever you are writing the answer, you just elaborate all these things, right? Warm up. So these are the questions which are very, very naive questions, and these questions, they relate to your name, gender, date of birth, address, phone number, so on. And then there are screens. So whether you need to use the data of the questionnaire or not, we use a screen for that. If some sections are not applicable, you can put some skips. So if your answer is yes, directly go to section 4. This is called as a skip. And finally, lastly, there should be difficult questions. So all these parts you are going to describe when you are writing about questionnaire. So this questionnaire method, it is helpful when your respondents are geographically scattered. So if the company is working on more than one location, then you can better use the questionnaire, because if you try to go for interviews or other methods, it will take a lot of time to collect the information. So rather you can send the questionnaire on email and get the answers. So this questionnaire method is most economical, and your respondents will have more confidence about the secrecy of their answers. So today we will stop with this part. Any doubts about today's section? कुणाला काही doubt आहे का?
No, sir.
Okay, so we will stop here.